Hello and welcome. My name is Bianca Alvarez, and I'm the Chief Customer Experience Officer at North Shore Systems. Today, I'm joined by my colleague Lydia Dawood, who is the Chief Intelligence Officer at North Shore. North Shore Systems is a cloud-based finance technology that has enabled the digital transformation of the lending process for CRE as well as C&I and all commercial loans from lead to final disposition for over 20 years. Our presentation today focuses on managing risk from end to end for the CRE and C&I lending process using the configurable intelligence efficiency in the North Shore Systems platform. The North Shore system has a configurable layer of intelligence. This intelligence layer is called North Shore IQ, and it allows for human intelligence for all aspects of the business process to be encapsulated in the system and triggered at any point in the process. This intelligence layer can automate any action. Some examples are workflow rules, deal screening, borrower and loan approval, underwriting rules, and surveillance and notifications. In this end-to-end workflow diagram, we've added examples of common uses of the North Shore IQ at various points in the workflow process. The first part of the process we will zoom into is the prospective deal. At the beginning, the information for a prospective deal can be captured via a mobile device using the North Shore mobile app or submitted by a customer through the North Shore portal or online application. Using the app, as you enter the preliminary details of the deal, the system engages intelligence to check for validity. For example, on the input of a deal name, the North Shore IQ validates to ensure a prospective deal does not already exist or that it does not exist under another originator. If neither of those are issues for the deal name that was entered, then the app displays a checkbox indicating that there are no issues and that you may proceed. The system will continuously run intelligence as you enter additional deal information so that when a loan amount is entered, for example, you get immediate alerts. Here, the IQ is indicating that the indirect exposure limit to the customer is exceeded by $3.5 million. At the same time, it gives additional information about the customer, in this case stating that their approval is in process. As you keep entering data, one more example on deal entry can be regarding the probability to close. As the user enters the first contact date and the expected closing date, the IQ takes what it knows about your portfolio and compares that expected date range against the actual turnaround time of other deals that are similar in type to determine the probability to close. In this case, the IQ calculates that based on the information provided, the deal is 85% likely to close on time. It also suggests below in the additional information that part of the reason that the percentage calculated is not higher could be due to workload of the underwriter assigned to this deal. It suggests that by reassigning this to another underwriter, you may increase the probability that it will close on time. Moving on to the next step in the lending process, the IQ can assist with relationship management. We're now zooming into the borrower approval section of the workflow. In North Shore, you have the ability to underwrite the financials of any borrowing entity. That can include your borrowers, co-borrowers, guarantors, and key principals. These entities can be underwritten independent of any deal or property. The intelligence can help reduce the risk of doing business with a particular entity by advising about lending on certain business types for certain entities. The IQ can alert you throughout of any unapproved interaction with that entity. As an example, if based on the borrower's current approval status, the borrower should not be allowed to submit non-recourse deals, then intelligence will alert you like you see here, specifying that a rule has been breached. The IQ indicates that approval status of the entity prohibits non-recourse deals. In the additional information section, it also indicates other actions that were taken, such as flagging all deals that this borrower is tied to and displaying them as watch list, and notifying all the deal team members that are tied to deals or watching deals that are affected by this change. As we move along the workflow from borrower approval to screening and sizing, we can incorporate Northshore IQ to automatically perform some of the initial sizing for us. Northshore IQ can be incorporated during the loan sizing by using the intelligence to load pricing and sizing parameters as defaults based on any combination of program type, product type, and property type. Here's one of our custom sizing screens that has been streamlined for quick sizing. You can see here that once the initial sizing criteria is selected, such as product type and loan purpose, the Northshore IQ can determine which pricing components make up each spread and also determine the optimal or recommended pricing parameters that should be used to calculate the values for those pricing and spread components. The system can also incorporate web service calls to obtain market values for starting index rates. You can see IQ lets you know the recommended pricing has been calculated. In the additional information section, it specifies that pricing was calculated based on the current index for a CRE small loan with a deferred interest. If we acknowledge the message, you can see the pricing values that IQ calculated and defaulted as part of the quick sizing. Moving along through the workflow, still in the screening section, as part of the screening, you may want to import some rent roll and cash flow information from an Excel spreadsheet. The Northshore system has the ability to import and export data seamlessly from an Excel template into the system. One of the drawbacks of working offline in Excel is that you don't have the benefits of the IQ engine. Luckily, as part of the import process, the intelligence in Northshore is used to validate the import data before it's committed to the system and can be used to also send notifications regarding the quality and completeness of the imported data. Here's an example where the intelligence not only validates the data in the detailed list that you can see here, but also analyzes and quantifies it. It lets you know that 80% of the data is acceptable, 10% demands further review, and 10% is incomplete. The IQ also sends notifications to any interested deal team members. Back to our diagram, you can really engage third-party vendors at any point throughout the workflow. We are moving along our sample workflow into the processing stage, where you may be bidding reports to third parties, ordering reports, and engaging vendors. As part of the Northshore system, we provide an external-facing portal for third parties to submit required information. The Northshore IQ is used throughout the portal as well as throughout the base system and the apps you've already seen. In the portal, an appraisal company, for example, can be granted direct access to be able to upload or import the appraisal report information for you. Upon completion, the intelligence can schedule appraisals and send any workflow notification to underwriting of any new appraisals ready for review. The IQ can also alert and notify the deal team if the current valuation has a positive or negative effect on the calculated loan-to-value percents as compared to the underwriter's estimated LTV for that deal. More importantly, it can flag and send management reports or notifications if the LTV does not fall within the required limits. We can now proceed from processing and zoom into the underwriting part of our workflow. Similar to the data validation after an import, other actions can be incorporated into the IQ's validation type of intelligence for underwriting and risk management. In this case, the underwriting validation screen lets you run the deal against the intelligence at any point in time on demand and returns immediate results. In this example, we are running the credit exception test. This triggers the IQ to run the deal through each of the underwriting rules and check whether any of the underwriting parameters currently fall outside of the required limits. The results of the test are displayed instantly in a list that you can filter to see all underwriting rules or to focus in on the required parameters that have failed their underwriting intelligence. In the results here, you can see some rules display a pass in green. This indicates the parameters are within the necessary limits. There are a couple of parameters here at the bottom of the list where the recommended thresholds have not been met. These ones display a fail message in red. In the case where the required thresholds fail, if the deal is still worth continuing due to other mitigating factors or benefits, you have the option to generate the underwriting exception as an exception to the required threshold limits that IQ has. Those exceptions get created for the deal and are listed in the credit exception screen. The underwriter can then mitigate each exception and submit it for approval to proceed. The exceptions can all feed the loan documents and approval documents as well. Returning to our workflow path and underwriting segment, we want to highlight underwriting across borrowing entities and real estate collateral. While you can underwrite entities individually of a deal in North Shore and underwrite the property and its financials individually, we also have the capability to underwrite both entities and collateral together. In the system, we call this the global cash flow, and the global cash flow screen gathers the borrowing individuals, the borrowing companies, any guarantors, and the optional property level if the deal is backed by real estate collateral. The North Shore IQ automatically performs adjustments as needed for any entities that have differing percentages of ownership. The IQ also constantly monitors the exposure of any entity. For example, if any of the entities have too much exposure for one property type, when the analysis of the global cash flow is being completed, the IQ will provide an alert. Here, for example, when you are setting up the global cash flow, if the entity analysis pushes them over the threshold that weighs their exposure too much into one direction, such as too heavy in CRE, which increases risk, then the IQ will provide an alert. In this case, the IQ calculates that the global cash flow is made up of more than 50% of CRE net income. The alert is displayed, and the IQ flags the entities with a notification that their portfolio is leaning too much in one direction. Anybody working with this entity will see the notification, and then you can make the adjustments or re-underwrite as needed. On our workflow path, after underwriting, the deal is ready for loan approval. Intelligence can be used to automate a credit matrix of authority levels. When the underwriter submits for approval, the North Shore IQ intelligently runs through all of the signing authority levels, deal type criteria, loan rating, and/or credit matrix to determine which approver or approvers are required on the deal. The North Shore IQ can take simple or compounded and complicated levels of logic and instantly check against the deal team, the user's workload, and authority levels to determine the number of approvers required, who those approvers should be, and if necessary, whether a committee approval is required. The North Shore IQ instantaneously sets up the approvers and sends them a notification that includes the credit memo or loan approval document if desired. The approvers can use the notification link to review and approve the deal, or they can have a designee log into the system and approve on their behalf. In this case, IQ recognizes when a designee is approving and captures a system-generated stamp of their name and date and time of approval. Whether the deal is approved or rejected, the results are communicated by the North Shore IQ to the underwriter and other pertinent deal team members. All right, we're more than halfway through our workflow now and getting to closing and post-closing. We're now zooming into the construction portion of the workflow to provide an example of how North Shore IQ can help speed up the construction draw process for CRE loans with construction. Our portal can be used by the borrower to submit budgets, request draws, and monitor their escrow status. IQ drives the escrow status bar at the top and color codes based on how much of the total escrow has already been disbursed. When a new draw request is submitted, North Shore IQ notifies the construction manager immediately so that they can more quickly review the request. North Shore IQ also assists with the scheduling of inspections by preventing the user from selecting inspection dates that are already busy or unavailable. When the construction manager receives the notification of a new request, they can confirm the schedule, which triggers IQ to notify the borrower that the inspection has been successfully scheduled. After the inspection, the construction manager may approve the draw request. The IQ notifies the borrower that the funds have been disbursed and in real time updates the escrow status. IQ also monitors that draws are generally on schedule for the planned construction period. Moving along the workflow and into asset management, we get into some of our dashboarding and reporting tools that, assisted by North Shore IQ, provide instant and informational graphics on the status of borrower requests or lines of credit, portfolio key risk indicators, or thresholds. When goals are met for a portfolio mix, the intelligence graphically depicts the progress and can send notifications with these graphics to management at desired status intervals. If portfolios or credit conditions are trending negatively, the intelligence will not only flag the high-risk trends, but notify management immediately upon hitting certain thresholds. These graphical displays of IQ monitoring are also dashboards that can be viewed at any time and throughout the system. The dashboards provide real-time access to data, and when monitoring key risk indicators, they also provide drill-down functionality so you can get to the detail of what is significantly affecting the portfolios and driving those negative trends. To complete the end-to-end workflow, we're wrapping up with the asset management module. Surveillance and compliance are key functions of the North Shore IQ, and surveillance and compliance are also key elements in asset management. The North Shore IQ can automate all of the surveillance and monitoring required for asset management. The North Shore IQ monitors maturing loans and provides friendly alerts as the deal reaches closer to maturity, such as when it's within 1 to 6 months of maturity. It also keeps surveillance on default, delinquent, and loans that require workout, as well as loans that are becoming watch list loans. When it comes to compliance, North Shore IQ monitors state-specific requirements coming due or ensures that compliant reporting is being met. There really are a multitude of ways that North Shore IQ can benefit the user of the system, especially in the asset management tasks. For example, North Shore IQ is commonly used to facilitate financial reporting and remind the borrower of any reporting required to maintain compliance. You can take something like this, for example, which lays out various criteria for segmenting the portfolio and prioritizing the loans and borrowers to perform financial review on. The North Shore IQ is then used to complete the financial reporting by having it perform the scheduling and execution of the request to the borrower at the times when the required documents are needed. The intelligence determines by any metric, such as the loan rating or the rating of the borrower, to determine the frequency of the required documentation. IQ can also escalate the frequency of the notifications and the language used in the notifications if borrowers are not responding to the requests in a timely manner. That completes our high-level overview of the uses of the configurable North Shore intelligence layer called North Shore IQ, which, as you've seen today, assists in managing risk from end to end for the CRE and C&I lending processes. Thank you for joining us today. Again, my name is Bianca Alvarez, and I've been assisted by Lydia Dawood, and we're from North Shore Systems.